Last week, you will know that Baroness Hoey actually predicted that neither Rishi Sunak nor Sajid Javid was going to be the next leader of the Conservative Party and the Prime Minister. So only a week has gone by and you are already 50% correct, Kate.
Yes, and I'm very pleased that I'm 50%. I'd like to be 100%, and that will take a little bit longer. But I think I'm quite pleased today because I think actually all four women have come through, and not just because they're women, because one of the good things about what's happened in the Tory party is that they seem to be able to get women and people from ethnic minorities without any kind of quota system. So I'm pleased today, and I think we'll see some other interesting results. I think it might just surprise everybody in the end what happens, but I don't think Rishi Sunak will be Prime Minister.
Well,
I'm still saying that.
Yeah, I don't think the Tories would be happy, the Tory base would be happy about it. Just let me ask you this, though. Theresa May had a little dig, I think, at whoever was leader of the opposition back then, probably Jeremy Corbyn, to say that for all the bleating on the Labour side about identity politics, it's the Tories that actually make women their leaders. Why do you? I mean, we're in a situation now where the Labour Party is led by what, in normal circumstances, would be criticised as old white men, and it's the Tories that are diversely a go-go. No,
and it's interesting because while Labour did a lot of talking about positive discrimination, had all women shortlists, all this kind of thing, the Conservatives just got on, and it happened. And I think the fact that we could end up with a very good possibility now of the Conservatives having a third woman Prime Minister, and Labour hasn't had one. It really does say something about maybe the whole way that they have tried to push this whole idea that the only way women can get on is by giving them special help. And I always opposed women only shortlists. I don't agree with it. So good. Let's see if out of those four, which one will end up as Prime Minister.
Well, certainly I think there will be a lot of there'll be a lot of bitterness in the party for Rishi Sunak to emerge. But you're so far.
I'm getting.
So we'll see if the rest of that situation comes through. Now we're here in Enniskillen in County Fermanagh on Orangeman's Day. Which of these Tory leaders is best for the union and best for the vexing qualities of the protocol?
Well, the one who so far has actually made it very clear and put it as a very top priority is Suella Braverman, who has been very consistent, and of course as Attorney General ruled that the legislation on the protocol that's actually going to have its committee stage tomorrow in the House of Commons is legal and is not breaking any international agreements. So I think in terms of that, but I think most of them realise that they can't go back on the legislation completely, but of course the legislation can be kind of not destroyed but watered down by amendments so much that it would mean that, for example, one of the amendments that's being moved is to say that more or less before anything could happen, even when the legislation goes through, would have to come back for a parliamentary vote. Now we saw what that did to the getting us out of the EU during Parliament, when the Ben bill and everything had to be decided by Parliament, and that would really tie whoever is Prime Minister. So I'm hoping that they realise, and anyone who comes to Northern Ireland at the moment and talk to people will know that you're not going to get devolution back. You're not going to have an assembly back until you get rid of the protocol, and the government has to act on that.
Well, let's just play that out a bit, because there is a theory, it's a little more than a conspiracy theory, but we can treat it like that the whole object of getting rid of Boris Johnson, as Michael Heseltine said, is you get rid of Boris, you get rid of Brexit. And that as far as Heseltine types are concerned, the best way to solve the problem of the protocol is by putting the rest of the country back under the EU for those purposes.
Yes, and that's what has been said by some members of Parliament and some even senior people, that of course that And that is what we know the European Union wants as well, that they think that by keeping to the protocol, keeping Northern Ireland as part of the single market and subject to all their rules, that the easiest thing then would be for the rest of the United Kingdom to also come back in and be part of the single market. Now, we actually saw Keir Starmer from Labour last week ruling that out. Whether he means it or not, I'm not sure. Well, but I don't think we can believe him, given that what he did over the referendum.
No, I don't think he does mean it. I just think he wants to neutralise the question before the election. But I certainly think that if you are a hardcore Remainer...
Yeah, you want to keep the protocol.
Well, you want to keep the protocol, and you basically want to sign up Scotland, England and Wales to the protocol.
Yeah, and you see, I mean, I think the public and those who voted to leave and those people in red wall seats who the Conservatives really want to hold on to know that that would mean we were really back in the European Union. You know, the reality is, if you want to be out and completely independent and free, able to do the same kind of things that we all voted leave to be able to do, you can't stay in the single market and the customs union.
Well, how do you feel then about your fellow unionists? Because there are, you know, certainly on the Republican side from Sinn Féin and everything, they've played the possibilities of this protocol rather cleverly, because they've identified a kind of ambivalence on the unionist side, which is that there are people who profess to be unionists and loyalists and want to remain part of the United Kingdom, but at the same time do not want, you know, to go a couple of miles south and find that there is a hard frontier with the European Union.
And of course, there's no need for a hard frontier with the European Union, and that has been played very cleverly by Sinn Féin, but also, of course, the Irish government have played it, and they played along with the European Union, and have played that idea that somehow, you know, the border, you know, it just makes me so very angry, actually, that it was okay to have not to have a hard border between the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, but it's fine to have a hard border between one part of the United Kingdom and another. And, you know, I think it's only in the last few months, because unionism finally said we've had enough and we're going to come out of the Assembly, we're not going to go back in until this is sorted, that the public in Great Britain have actually realised just what ridiculous situation it is. And if you asked any of those Conservative MPs, would they allow their constituency to be separated out and kept in the European Union, you know, they would laugh at you. So I think unionism needs, you know, I'm pleased that finally there's a bit more unity within unionism. I'm pleased that there is a fight back against the protocol. But, you know, for far too long, I really do believe that we've been too nice, unionism. They've sat back and said, oh, well, you know, we're British and we don't do it in this sort of way that Sinn Féin do or nationalists do. But the governments of all parties have taken us for granted, and I think that's got to change.
Well, you know, what I don't get is why the government of the United Kingdom, which is a member of the G7, has a permanent seat on the UN Security Council, is the whatever biggest economy in the world, allows itself to get kicked around essentially by a Dublin government that has far more to lose than the UK does if they don't reach agreement. I mean, I simply don't understand why cocky Dublin foreign ministers are allowed to strut around on the world stage acting as if it's Britain that is backed into a corner and has to concede everything.
And keep telling people in Northern Ireland what they should be doing in the political parties. You know, the Irish government has gone right against the Belfast Agreement in terms of all the different strands, because Strand 1 is not meant to be their involvement at all, and they have got involved, and they keep, I mean, I think the relations now between Northern Ireland and the Republic, and obviously because that's broken down, there's no more, you know, unionism is not getting involved in any of the cross-party meetings, cross-border meetings. But also I think the government itself has actually played along with the Irish government. You know, they never seem to speak out. And then the Irish Taoiseach has the cheek to tell us that the United Kingdom is being partial You know, as if the Irish government don't stand up for the nationalists. And we have in the past, I'm afraid, the British government has tended to say, oh, we must be impartial, you know, we must be sort of nice. Whereas
that's that rubbish I can't stand where, Her Majesty's government accepts that it has no selfish interest in Northern. Oh, right. So do you have no selfish interest in Scotland, England, and Wales?
Well, that's again, you see, Mark, what people, you know, worried about the Union. I mean, surely no British Conservative Prime Minister wants to be Prime Minister over breaking up with the United Kingdom. Northern Ireland and Scotland are very, you know, the two are very linked because there is a great. You've seen some of the Ulster Scots, the bands over today on the processions. Lots of kilts and lots of bagpipes. Even one lot of bagpipes anyway.
No, it's actually quite heartening. I don't think a lot of people would have bet. You know, we're talking a century. I think the Irish Free State celebrates its centennial in December, and I don't think a lot of people would have bet that Northern Ireland would have survived a century. So you must be pretty pleased, actually, that it has.
I am, and I'm very pleased that, you know, I'm pleased that we're, as I said, we're fighting back, but also now I think there is a recognition that, you know, Northern Ireland, we're not going anywhere. We're not, you know, you have seen the strength of people today and all over Northern Ireland, and, you know, just because we're not always out there shouting, maybe we should shout a bit more. But it's good that GBNews came over and covered it live today. You know, that was really, really positive when BBC doesn't.
We're pleased to be here. I've said to you a couple of weeks ago that in the times when I used to be in and out of the BBC were always militantly Republican. I remember one snotty announcer covering Orangeman's Day and talking about the pipe bands, and then saying in that superior way that they have on the Beeb, some of us just wish the Unionists would pipe down, and they're not going to pipe down,
No,
are they?
we're not.
No.